Altadena Seven, that series continues 7 months after the Eaton fire, the road to recovery, rebuilding the Altadena community. Joining us this morning, a very special guest who has been with us through the thick of it when it was all going on, coming in to kind of keep us updated as the things were happening moment by moment. President of the NAACP Pasadena Chapter, Mr. Brandon Lamar, welcome back.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Let me tell you, you've been busy. You all have been busy out there.
Yeah, it don't stop.
It won't stop.
Yeah.
It's a long road to recovery.
It's our community, and if anybody's going to rebuild, it has to be us.
Well, and you know what? And that's a lot what we're going to talk about. A lot of people are jumping in, wanting to help and figuring out where we are now with the recovery process. As we said, it's going to be years and years before, we're restored. But in the meantime, a lot of people out there, a lot of organizations, you with the NAACP, you've been quite busy. How are you doing personally first? Because a lot is on the head of those with responsibility and leadership.
I'm doing good. I'm learning to take care of myself. My wife is a mental health therapist. She's a licensed mental health therapist. And so she makes sure that she gives me our reminders. All right, time to take care of yourself.
Time to take care of yourself.
And I have a lot of community members that are reminding me as well to take care of myself. So I'm doing pretty good.
Well, speaking of taking care of yourself mentally, those struggling after fires, Dee Hirsch, they're offering free counseling. All you have to do is go to crisiscare.org/backfire, and they'll be able to assist you. That's Dee Hirsch, struggling after the fires. A lot of people emotionally still trying to gather themselves. Others have received money and insurance money and trying to start up. How are most of the residents, the ones that you're hearing from right now?
Yeah, I think people are still trying to figure out this process. Some people have received insurance money. Most people have not. Some people receive checks from their insurance, but they can't cash them. And so there's a lot of things that are happening in this moment as far as recovery goes. As I said before, January, February, March, people were literally trying to figure out the disaster. Now we're really starting to see what the real issues are in our community and how people are being affected by the injustices of this recovery happening right now.
That was one of the things that we all were trying to push to families and businesses that, okay, right now you may not feel like you need this particular thing. SBA, FEMA was really trying to say, hey, get in, figure it out later, get registered, apply. And a lot of businesses are now saying, oh, this money, I see where I'm hit or where I'm hurt. And those deadlines have kind of they've stopped at one point, but extended some in some. And we'll get to those. When you see some of the issues, the challenges, we talk about those, but what are some of the wins that we're seeing? What are we seeing that we're winning?
I think the wins that we're having is our community coming together, right? Our community actually being present for each other. I tell everybody at the end of the day, it is literally our community that was the first responders to the disaster that happened. And we're seeing that even 7 months into this fire, our community is still stepping up with each other. But also the organizations within the community, we're starting to see very few homes being rebuilt at this time. And I think that's also what's giving hope into our community right now. You with the
NAACP, the Pasadena chapter, they're president of that, the national chapter, how are they responding and knowing what's happening here in our community?
So, believe it or not, I became president of the Pasadena NAACP while we were boots on the ground. I think it was 4 days after the fire. We're literally distributing food and items to the community. And National came on site, was like, hey, congratulations, you're president. And I'm looking like, right now? But ever since that moment, they literally have been supporting us every single way, to helping us to host community events, recovery events, making sure that our community has the right connections, making sure that we're well informed. So National has definitely been boots on the ground with us.
We love that. We love to hear that. We love to hear that. Of course, I've run into a lot of families who are still struggling, trying to figure out what they want to do. And when there's that kind of indecisiveness, there's a lot of people we talked about trying to come in, the investors buying up land and buying the property as is. What are you seeing as far as that process?
So right now we have, I believe it's 145 lots that have been sold so far. There's also 100 lots that are actually up for sale right now. And the majority of those lots have either gone to big corporations or they have gone to international buyers. That is something that is devastating to our community, because this is also land that should be going to home buyers, new home buyers, new families. But when you have corporations and international buyers coming in $100,000 over asking price with cash offers, our community can't beat that, right? And so those are also the devastations that our community is seeing. And we don't even know if they're going to rebuild a home, right? Or even just let that land just sit, right? So those are the things that we just can't control at this time.
So are the residents aware that there are folks that, because I know you brought a young lady in with you last time, that their organization were trying to buy those properties, but are they being outbid, or do the residents not know that there are organizations like that are trying to make sure those stay in the community, or are they being outbid by the investors? Or both?
I think it's being outbid, but I also think that the organizations don't have enough resources to be able to buy all these properties, right? You have Greenlight Housing Foundation with Jasmine Schuper, who I brought in last time. You have Lori Gray with Neighborhood Housing Services. She's actually helping former renters actually buy their lots. So Dr. Eshell, she helped Dr. Eshell Williams buy hers. So there's programs that are happening. The problem is there's a lack of resources in our community. So when you have corporations that has an endless amount of money, you have international buyers that have endless amount of money, that doesn't compare to what our organizations have here locally.
Wow. Big shout out to Lori Gay and Miss Lena, who have come together and really put together a lot of workshops to try to get information. Lady Lena Kennedy, and they've come together. They had one just not too long ago. We're trying to get that information out. And look, it's going to take everybody. We already know that, what I've found just trying to get people in, and we've got to figure out a way to get around this. And that's because if we don't, more investors are going to come in. And I'm speaking about, I didn't know if I wanted to bring it to the radio or not, but we are being a little cliquish out there. We being a little cliquish about who can help and who can't help. And I do understand the residents of Altadena really wanting to be a part of that process of rebuilding. But you're not going to be able to do it alone. You got to get some people that have some other resources. You got to get people that know this person, that person. And we got to throw that part away. You know what I mean? And figure out how we can work together. But now with that being said, those that are coming in and want to help, you got to find out who the players are and know how to best assist. Because I saw your post that about, what was the post again? It was good about the chaos, but we got to come together.
Good intentions without proper planning leads to chaos. And that's really the truth, right? The truth of the matter is we want people to help. We want organizations to help. At the end of the day, Altadena Pasadena is not going to rebuild itself, right? We don't even have enough manpower to rebuild ourselves. But at the end of the day, when we have people or organizations coming in without first checking in with the local organizations and people who are boots on the ground, who are connected to our families, that's when the problem persists, right? And that's what we've been saying since day one, is that if you're going to come in and help be a part, we need you to connect with the people who are on the ground that are connected to the families, because our first agenda is to make sure our families rebuild. Our first agenda is to make sure our families are good, that they're connected to the resources that they needed. And at the end of the day, it's going to take all of us. It's going to take a united front from our communities to make sure that this once thriving Black community is able to rebuild again. And I think it's so important that those of us that really want to help, who have those massive resources to come in and make some things change, while we're looking, I think you gave a great example. We're looking from way up here and we see that there's some need, but we don't quite know. We're not on the ground like you guys are in other organizations. So we come in and we bring all these resources in, but we open the door for some folks that are trying to take advantage of the situation. Absolutely. We're seeing that as well. I mean, That's why we say we want organizations to be connected to organizations that are boots on the ground. Because at the end of the day, it is these organizations and people that are connected to the families.
Yeah.
And if the families are not getting the resources, then what are we doing this for?
Let me tell you.
At the end of the day, we're doing this so our families can become whole.
Yeah.
But we also have people who are vultures, not only in the construction trade, not only as contractors, but we also have community members who are not impacted by these fires, that are standing in line, that are beating families in line to get these goods. And that is what's destroying our community right now with resources, right? And so I always tell people, my grandmother said it, this is for the needy, not the greedy. And so if you're coming to be greedy, if you're coming to resell the items that we're giving out for free, then don't come at all.
Right.
People actually need these items.
Right.
And we want to make sure that people are not spending their money on essential items or air purifiers or new clothing. We want them to spend their money on how they're going to rebuild their home.
Yes.
How they're going to pay for the wood, how they're going to pay for the gravel and everything else, right? That's the important thing for us. And we don't want them to worry about the other essential stuff that happens, the day-to-day life essentials. That we want that stuff to be for free.
Where you provide it. And there are funds out there and available for that. And so when you have people coming in, I know we were talking from San Diego or from all these other places just to stand in line and get these things, it really damages.
It does.
It damages the community. It damages community. So not just those, but political issues. People bringing political platforms to the situation. This is not what this is for. This is for these residents and getting them restored. When we talked last time, we talked about building back better.
Yep.
A lot of the residents concerned about how they're going to do that. You know, they got their information, got their monies from the insurance companies, and now they're trying to look for contractors and architects, and they want to build back with sustainable things to fire deterrent. And even you talked about putting those electrical wires underground. Right. How far along are we with that? Are we able to get those people connected so they can do so? Where are we?
Yeah, so Edison has put out a notice that they are going to rebuild our wires underground. Like the electricity will go underground. But it's also about consolidating our 3 privately owned water companies, right? Why did the fire hydrants run out of water in the first place, right? It's also talking to our gas company. Why did the gas company not shut off gas even 3 days after the fire was still burning, right? So it's these things that we have to talk about, but we also have to talk about the infrastructure of notifying our communities when disasters are happening and ahead of time, right?
Huge.
Literally the 18 people who passed away in Altadena, they were all from West Altadena. West Altadena never got the alert. And so that's also talking about the infrastructure of how we rebuild to make sure that we notify our communities when things like this happen. Because the truth of the matter is not if another disaster is going to happen, it's when a disaster is going to happen, and we have to be prepared.
Are the residents concerned rebuilding in that area about the wildfires and things like that? They're still very much concerned.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a lot of concern that's happening. I think there's a lot of contractors that are looking at still builds and things of that nature, but also still builds are very expensive. Yeah. Especially when you're coming from a home that was $1.3 million, but your insurance is only giving you $700,000, right? It's not feasible for our community, and that's only for those that are actually receiving insurance money. There are plenty of people in our community that have not received their insurance. There's plenty of people in our community that don't have insurance. There's plenty of people in our community that I've spoken to directly that are saying, my insurance is telling us they won't release the money until we're 30% into the rebuild. Like, we need that money to start the rebuild, right? So it's injustice after injustice.
How do they get that? Are there organizations that help them get those funds and to even start out to rebuild it? Trying to find people to come in and do that.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. Because those companies, those people that are coming in with that big money, this is, if you know these organizations that are talking to the residents that's saying, then you can know where your money can best help. You can best help. I know a lot of people, I read this lady, she talked about the soil. They're ready to rebuild, but they tested the soil. Toxic. A lot of people say, "Oh, it was okay," and the Army Corps, they swore to us this was their thing. You know, we see them on television over and over. This is what we do. This is what we do. Now we understand why so many people were protesting about it even sitting in their area.
Literally.
Yeah, and they were like, "We don't care what you say. We know." What are families? What is the recourse for families with this soil toxicity?
Yeah. Right now, there's a lot of communities that are coming together. One of the organizations that is really helping with that is an organization called Fire Poppy. There's another organization called Altadena Eden Fire Survivors Network. They're all really talking about soil testing in our community. Right now, you have to collect the soil yourself and then send it out to a testing facility, but that testing facility is months behind due, right? And so that's what's happening within our community right now. The Army Corps of Engineers, they only digged up the soil that was literally on the perimeter of the house, not around the house. So not your backyard, not your front yard, things of that nature. And so now you find people who are literally at this moment, people are getting sick, right? People are literally having respiratory issues. I talked to a lady yesterday who was in line at the grocery store, but she reached out to me yesterday and saying that, you know, her 97-year-old patient is now having issues. He's in the hospital. They had the opportunity to move back because their home didn't burn down, but everything around them did. But now they're going through that toxic space. And so this is what our community has to look at. This is important for us, especially as the African-American community. We don't see issues until issues arise, right? And we can't wait till 5 years later when we're actually hearing people talk about cancer and bronchitis and asthma and all these things. We got to talk about this soil right now, and we cannot have our community breathing up this unclean soil.
There's so much that we need to talk about. Over the next few years, these will be conversations that will be carried on. So much more. Southern California Edison offering survivors money at this point. And I've had so many of them call me and say, do I get this money? But there are stipulations with it. You can no longer, I guess, hold them accountable or sue them if you take on this money. They're saying, of course, it's to kind of jump in and help because it's going to be years and years down before this lawsuit goes anywhere. And it's their way of trying to assist. I know you don't want to offer any legal advice, but just in your opinion, this is his opinion, what is happening with this and how should one proceed?
Yeah, first, I'm not a lawyer, so I would never give legal advice to anybody. But I think what is important for people to know is that you should consult in a lawyer. We've been making sure that all of our community members are connected to lawyers in our community because you have to consult in a lawyer before this. My concern is this. My concern is that the people that this will target are people who don't have time on their side, people who don't have insurance, people who have low insurance. I think this is going to target families who are in pre-foreclosure. There's this organization called My Tribe Rise, and we actually helped My Tribe Rise help a family out of pre-foreclosure. Project Passion, which is the organization that I founded, we actually paid that family to be out of pre-foreclosure because we're starting to see families in pre-foreclosures, right? And so I think this is also going to be targeting those families who are going into pre-foreclosures. So honestly, we don't have all the information of what they're going to give. We heard that it's going to be coming out more in the fall, but I really think that before people say yes to that deal, they have to first consult with lawyers. They also have to make sure that this is the best that is for them, right? If you have to wait until the lawsuit is over, then wait until the lawsuit is over before you get pennies on the dollar.
Wow. There's so much to discuss. I'm so glad you're coming back Wednesday, too.
I'm happy about it.
All week long, we're going to be talking about those that are rebuilding and recovery there in Eaton. We're going to talk when we come back. We're going to take a break here about how you find the right attorney because Not everybody has the best interest there. And just when folks get all this money, what to do?
Yeah.
Because I've been hearing about them.
Yeah.
Well, they buy some nice cars out there.
It's for your house, not your car.
We're going to talk about some financial literacy for folks so they can hold on to that generational wealth. Don't squander it now that you've come thus far. You've been through a lot. So we want to make sure that it's still available, not just, for generations to come, but for you to enjoy as well, but to think about the thereafter. All right. So we're going to talk about that. We've got some other resources for you. And then permits. Yeah. That need to be waived and some that have been. And then the LA County tax assessor, Jeff Prang, will be with us hopefully later on this week as well. So we're going to take a quick break here and come back. Our very special guest, president of the NAACP Pasadena Chapter, Brandon Lamar. We continue Altadena 7 right here on Radio Free. It's 102.3 KJLH. Family, Altadena 7 months after the Eaton fires. We are still trying to get resources out to those that have yet to get them. But a lot of folks, whether you are listening and you're saying, my home wasn't involved, my family wasn't involved. When one of us hurts, we all hurt, right? So this is our family there in Altadena, Pasadena. We're going to talk about that because we talked about how it's kind of split when we talk about this now, but at one point, all one big community. But when you hear about this and what's happening in our country, just the world at this point, a lot of people are struggling, not just from the fires, but mentally from everything that's happening. Every time you turn on television, it's something. And Dee Dee Hirsch is offering free counseling for those that are impacted by the fires, have friends that have issues with recovering from the fires, or just going on with this world, period. But if it's specifically about the wildfires, they're offering free counseling and crisis care. You can go to crisiscare.org/wildfire. All right. That's crisiscare.org/wildfire. And they'll be able to assist you. Our guest, Brandon Lamar, president of the NAACP Pasadena Chapter, joining us, giving us so much information and insight about what's happening, not only when it was first after the fires, but now that we are into the recovery and rebuilding process, there are some cracks that we need to fill. And some of that has a lot to do with a lot of funding that's available that we need to get to. Mm-hmm. And you were so excellent in telling me how Pasadena and Altadena was one big community. And, Altadena doesn't necessarily have a mayor, but the mayor of Pasadena, Mayor Gardo, I believe, is playing a part in releasing funds. Well, or should be.
Yeah. So we talked about the permitting piece of it, and Altadena is ran by the county supervisor. Okay. Our supervisor is Catherine Barger.
Yes.
And so because Altadena is not a municipal city, they have to be governed by the county. So she covers Altadena. We have a mayor and city council, which is our mayor is Victor Gordo, and then we have an entire city council in Pasadena. But we're also pushing for in Pasadena is for those permitting fees to be canceled for families as well that are rebuilding in the Pasadena side. And I know a lot of the attention has been on Altadena because it's the vast majority of the damage, but there's also over 150 parcels that was burned down in Pasadena. Yeah. And we're asking for that to be settled as well. Within the city of Pasadena, the county has made an effort to cancel rebuild fees or defer rebuild fees for Altadena residents, and we want the same thing to happen for Pasadena residents as well.
Pasadena said, "Don't forget about us." When Michael Jackson played earlier, look, and when you break it down and you get to understanding the politics of how it is, so the LA County Supervisor Barger, she's in charge of the LA County funds.
She's in charge.
The funds that distributing, right? Or no?
Not really in distributing. She's in charge. She's the governing body
of those. Okay.
For Altadena.
Gotcha.
So it's the Altadena Town Council, which is like a commission, and then she is like the so-called mayor of Altadena because Altadena doesn't have a mayor.
I understand.
So they are governed by the supervisor's office. So she is there making sure that Altadena is taken care of.
Okay.
Just like Palisades. People thought Palisades was a part of the county, which they are, but Palisades is under the city of Los Angeles. So Mayor Karen Bass
was
covers Palisades.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So Congresswoman Judy Chu, she's helping you with your federal funding, though, right?
She's on the federal side. So she's the connection to FEMA, SBA, all of those federal groups.
Yes. She's
that connection on the federal side as our Congresswoman.
All right. We need some of these fees, not just deferred. We want them gone.
Yeah.
We want them gone. We hope to have a little bit later on this week the LA County tax assessor, Jeff Prang. I had a chance to chat with him and talk with him. He says his office has so much information, especially when it comes to scams and fraud that's happening right now when people are at their most horriblest times. People are coming in trying to take advantage, changing deeds, and you're not knowing about it until these people have your property.
I mean, it happened to me. And we were displaced for maybe a week, but somebody filed FEMA and got $30,000 on our property.
Whoa.
And we're tenants, right? Me and my wife, we're tenants, and they got $30,000 from FEMA for us. And the only way I found out is FEMA actually called me to verify. And I was like, I don't know anybody named Chris. Like, who's that? Oh,
my goodness.
But these are the things that are happening in our community. And I think it is also up to our tax assessor, which we're friends, but we have to make sure that what's happening in Altadena, that we educate all of our communities throughout the county of Los Angeles to make sure that their paperwork and all of their affairs are good to go and in order.
This is a great time when I say people are listening and are thinking like, oh, that doesn't affect me, or that's not my... Be a blessing and get the information. Absolutely. Because it could affect you. I think everybody, when we started hearing about how insurance companies weren't paying up and saying, finding these little loopholes, well, you weren't covered for this. I think it's a great opportunity for us to all to call our agents, find out what we're covered for, find out what coverage we need, and to really kind of get our business affairs in order. I know one of the things they talked about was some of the family homes couldn't get things done because it was in so-and-so's name, and it should have been in somebody else's name to get it.
The deeds. Or land trust, right? Yeah. We have land trust that is happening within our community to help to rebuild the process. But even within those deeds, families then transfer over the deeds, which is also where the LA County Assessor's Office can help to make sure that those transfers happen. Because in reality, before the disaster, if you didn't transfer over those deeds, you actually can be charged with back property taxes. Yeah. And our community can't afford that at this time.
No. And then big thank you to Lori Gay with Neighborhood Housing Services, who's offering the free service to get this business put in order. And I don't think necessarily that a lot of these families, purposefully said, oh, I'm not going to do that. Or some of them just couldn't afford it because it costs money to get that done. And in order to get it absolutely free, Lori Gay and Neighborhood Housing Services are teamed up with attorneys that can do this for you. Take advantage of this opportunity that's there. You guys have been amazing with connecting people with people. And that's what I love, because it's going to take everybody to come together. We spoke a little bit about the little clashes with organizations, but I think the main thing we want to do is open people's hearts and let them know everybody's got to work together.
Absolutely.
And we can come together, and we can do that.
Yeah. I mean, that's the heart of it. We've connected to people on the other side of the 10 freeway, like Brotherhood Crusade, like, Social Justice Learning Institute with my boy Derek Steele, right? We're all connected together. Derek Steele actually got a whole bunch of people from Inglewood and brought them to Pasadena, Altadena, to help to distribute funds. So it's literally going to take all of us at this time to rebuild our community, to sustain our community. But like you said, if it happens to one of us, it happens to all of us. And next time, it might not be a fire. It might be an earthquake. Yeah. But we also was getting those tsunami alerts as well. So it might be a tsunami next time. We don't know. Right.
Brotherhood Crusade, big shout out to Cherise Bremont Weaver over there working hard with everyone as well. Look, how do we get in touch with you or different organizations that are doing things? I know I talked to you about putting together like a resource guide. How can we get to you and then find out other resources?
Yeah, and we putting together that resource guide to make sure our community, number one, knows what the resources are. They know who has funding to be able to help. So you can go to Project Passion inc.com. That has all of my information. On Instagram, I am BD Lamar. That's Brandon, Adai Lamar, BD Lamar, and other organizations who have really been doing the work is organizations like Day One, Neighborhood Servants, My Tribe Rise, Eden Fire Collaborative, All Together, Friends Indeed, Shepherd's Door, Passing the Church, Harambe, Door of Hope, Passing the Union Station. And we also give a huge shout out to our local community people who are making sure that our news is getting out there. People like Conversation Live with James Farr and Passing the Black Pages. These are the organizations and communities that is making sure that our stories is continue to be told, especially thank you to KJLH and you, Ms. Adai, for making sure that these stories do not die, because we have to make sure that this Black community that has been displaced is able to rebuild.
Well, big thank you again to, Stevie Wonder was well upon this before everything was developing. And he asked us to make sure that we covered it. Of course, we were going to because it's our community. But that's the great thing about having a station like this is that, when we can focus on the things that matter to us. And big shout out to Karen Slade, Chris Malone, who said 7 months after it, our program director, we need to revisit all of this and make sure they know that we have not forgotten about them. And I'm going to make that connection because you were talking about people getting money and not really knowing how to manage it at this point. John Hope Bryant, you said financial literacy is going to be very important.
It's very important at this time. You have people that are receiving lump sums amount of money, and they've never received this kind of money before. And so we have to make sure that our community is well-versed financially and they have the financial resources to make sure that they're making the right decisions, right? You cannot be buying a car with the money that you got to be able to rebuild your home, your forever home, your generational home that you're going to pass down, right? And so we want to make sure that our community members are making good decisions with the funds that they're receiving.
Well, I tell you what, he's going to be here for our Men's Summit in September. We're going to add this, make this meeting happen. We're going to add that to his agenda. So we appreciate him coming in, and he's going to be able to help us with that. Look, everybody's going to have to come together. I just want everyone to understand the cliques and this and this and this, and let me talk to you as your sister, right? Like I see everybody, posturing, and you've got people that want to do this and people want to do that. And there's a time and place everybody's going to be needed. This person is going to be able to open that door, and this person is going to have to be able to knock down that door. So we're going to need the etiquettes and the bougie, and we're going to need the gangsters that's going to kick it down and make people do what they're supposed to do. So thank you for being here with us. I can't wait till you come back to Wednesday because I know we're going to have another great conversation.
It's going to be amazing. Thank you for making the time. Absolutely.
Brandon Lamar, president of the NAACP Pasadena Chapter. It's Adai Lamar here with our first episode of Altadena 7 with the Steve Harvey Morning Show.